Welcome to High Tea with Dirk and Rens, a podcast about cannabis culture. My name is Dirk Bergman.
And my name is Rens Hoppenbrouwers. This episode is sponsored by Seed Stockers, affordable cannabis seeds for home growers, available at seedstockers.com.
We have again a very special guest, or really two special guests in the High Tea podcast studio today. German cannabis activist, entrepreneur and inventor of the Green Deal cannabis game, Nyke.
Hello, Rens. Hello, Derek. Thank you so much for having me. And also, we have a dog today, so you might hear it. It's my dog. She's getting quite excited too.
Yeah, of course.
Wanted to join.
Yeah, she also on the microphone, but
we don't discriminate between people and dogs. You know, she's very welcome. Or is it he?
It's a she.
It's a she.
She's welcome. Now we will talk about the exciting prospects for legalization in Germany, your game Green Deal, and your other activities and adventures in this cannabis world.
But first, we will discuss the biggest national and international cannabis news stories. Tourists remain welcome in Amsterdam's coffee shops. Hurrah! One of the selected growers of the Dutch weed experiment has lost its license, meaning that one new grower can enter the experiment. German members of parliament traveled to the USA and Canada to visit dispensaries, grow facilities and the Niagara College Cannabis Institute. And legalization is on the ballot in 5 American states during the midterm elections next month. And just yesterday, October 6, historic date, President Biden announced a pardon for people convicted under federal law of possessing cannabis, and also a review of the scheduling of cannabis in the US on a federal level. That's certainly a big one.
More good news from the Czech Republic. The Czech drug policy coordinator is preparing a legalization law proposal and wants to be enforced by January 2024 at the latest. And in Belgium, hemp plants are used to clean up heavily polluted soil in Zwijndrecht. And the head of the National Cannabis Authority of Malta visited the Netherlands and was right here in the VOC office and the High Tea podcast on September the 23rd.
Yeah, maybe we should have made a podcast when she was here, but I think you were traveling on that date. But we'll get into it in the news segment. The last two news stories that we will talk about in this episode is from South Africa, where cannabis legalization is back in the High Court during the trial of the plant Part 2. And from Colombia, we have some news because there's also a legalization bill that's being approved right there.
Yes, and as always, you can listen to our regular segments, What's in Your Joint Today, our history segment, The Oude Doos, listeners' responses, and the High Tea podcast Kweekhoekje, our home-growing segment.
This is High Tea with Dirk and Rens, episode 66.
Wat zit er in jouw joint vandaag?
And we always start with our first segment, What's in Your Joint Today? And I see Nyke with a Kush vaporizer pen.
Yes, greetings to Marijke for always keeping me hooked on the kush. As you guys know, I'm just on a way. I'm traveling through back to Germany because I'm on a meeting over there. And I told you, we were talking about this already. I really don't like to smoke a lot before I'm driving. So I'm keeping it clean with some CBD with kush vape. Yeah.
Nice. Very smart, very smart. I would never like to smoke before I would go to the German highways. So
you gotta be very careful.
Yeah.
But do you have any plans on what you will be smoking tonight after all your work is done and you're back home?
I have a very nice wedding cake at home. And I'm gonna smoke that.
Okay.
And then the next second I will be back here, so I'm good.
Nice. Derek, what are you smoking?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the wedding cake, because I got like an insider's tip earlier this week from someone who said, if you go to the Upstairs coffee shop right here in Eindhoven, shout out to Arnoud of the Upstairs coffee shop, they have a real nice ice cream cake right there. And I must say, we have quite a few coffee shops here in Eindhoven, but they're not fantastic in their menu compared to some other cities. So I thought, well, this is the kind of strain that I'm always into, Let's check it out. And earlier today I went over there, but this is what you get. It wasn't on the menu anymore. It was all gone. So I should have acted sooner. But then I had the choice between like a purple kush and my favorite strain, I would say, of all time, Silver Haze. And looked at both and smelled both and then took my, what I choose, probably Rens.
Super Silver Haze.
Yeah, it wasn't super, and I still wonder about it. It was just Silver Haze.
Okay.
But both of them are good for me. And how about you?
Well, I got the luck that I've been blessed that I'm working a lot with the people of the Dizzy Duck in The Hague. Awesome coffee shop. I would recommend it to everybody. And they always make sure I'm well cared for. So I received some jars, and this jar, the last joint I smoked from it was the Runs crossed with Gushers, and it's from a Dutch grower over there, and it's super nice, super sweet.
Yeah, the Hague really is a wheat town, eh? Almost more so than Amsterdam, I would say, for the growing as well.
They have 35 coffee shops, something.
And
that's a lot.
So yeah,
real good growers.
For
too.
example, in Eindhoven, it's only 12.
Yeah.
Whether already a few are closed still or not.
The Indian is still closed, and I'd say it will be permanently closed, and the High Times is back open again. So.
Okay.
For a long time here in Eindhoven, the city council and also the mayor has said that they want 3 more coffee shops, but we've been waiting, I think, about 3 years now. It's a bit like the Wietproef that we will get into later.
But I'm really enjoying the smoke, and I hope everybody at home has something nice to smoke as well.
Or vape.
It smells good in here, that's for sure.
I hope I don't make you too stoned with the smell and with the smoke. Okay. All right. I'll say let's go to the news segment. Yes, and we have been traveling, me in Spain, and Derek has been to Italy. So it's been a while since our last episode, and this means we have a lot of news to discuss. I'm sorry, Nyke, but it's always nice that we can hear your opinion about it as well. Let's start in Amsterdam, where a tourist ban for the coffee shops has been averted. What's the story, Derek?
Well, this has been going on for a while. It's like a soap opera a bit. The mayor of Amsterdam, Mrs. Femke Halsema, she's the first female mayor we ever had in the history of the city, 700 years plus. And she is from the GroenLinks or Green Left Party. And you would say that has enough credit to at least, take care of the coffee shops and maybe even develop a better policy. But she has it into her head that a tourist ban is just the right thing for Amsterdam, a tourist ban for the coffee shops. And this idea, I think they've been discussing it now over 3 years. But just last month, 2 weeks ago, September 30, was a big debate. And then it became clear that there is really no support in the city council for the idea. I think I have the figures right here. After the debate, it emerged that Halsema would only have 8 of 45 council votes. From liberal VVD and Christian Democratic CDA, the Christian Party, and right-wing Ja21. So that's for our Dutch listeners, they know those Christians and right-wing parties and the party of our Prime Minister Mark Rutte. You don't have shit for them if it concerns cannabis. So that's the good news. And she has said there will be a new letter sent to the council, maybe for new plans, and she wants alternatives. But to me, the bottom line is pretty clear. The tourist ban is out of the window.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think it will return.
I hope. Also, another news from the Dutch wheat experiment. One of the appointed growers, Supraleaf, has lost its license because of trouble finding a location.
Yeah, this is also a very long story. Actually, this morning I had to get up at 4 o'clock to be on national radio talking about the wheat experiment for an hour, which was a very fun experience, but a bit early. And the occasion was that it's exactly 5 years ago, actually next Monday on the 10th of October, that the government plan for the weed experiment was first presented. And 5 years have passed. And where is the regulated weed? Well, how about maybe you can answer the question, Rens? There's only one grower out of the 10 appointed that is actually already growing.
Yeah, there's one is already up in business because they were already growing for medical
And this
reasons.
is Vita in Waalwijk.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Backed by German investors for 80%, I think. Huh?
Vita. I have to be honest. I don't know exactly the financial story, but
I know that it's German money, so that's interesting.
Okay, but it takes incredible long, but it's not the fault of the government or anything. I think it's still they found challenges on the way they didn't expect to have.
Like no bank account.
Like no bank account, like the electricity.
Really? Big companies, and still they are refused.
The banks won't accept them, right? It's
Yeah.
the same situation as in the US, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you have local license things people need to get fixed, or the electricity cables that needs to be fixed. That's all kind of things, and of course, people can say, why are those companies choose if they haven't even got the building ready?
Mm-hmm.
That's also what I'm wondering sometimes. But they choose the one who got the license now, and they now have to fight all these challenges. Also, the electricity cable, it takes a half year before you get it, and they have to rebuild the whole street to lay the cable and all those things. So
that to me, it's really a case because this has been over-regulated from the start. There are so many criteria and rules that you have to do that it's very far away from like a normal, say, commercial way of going around, of making a tender or introducing a new kind of product. This is also what I told this morning at the radio show, that it would have been so much better if coffee shops had been allowed to introduce the regulated product together and have their old product still also on sale, like any normal supermarket would do it. For instance, if a supermarket would introduce like biological milk, they're not going to take away all the other milk from one day to the next and say, now it's only biologically produced milk. No, they do it both. And if the consumer likes the biological stuff better, then there'll be more choice and whatever. But it's very rigid, and then the rules are for the packing and for all the bureaucratic shit. And really, this makes it more expensive to even, be a contender for the weed experiment. And what I think is interesting, that's why we put it in the news segment, is that you can lose your license if you have trouble finding the location. This is kind of a strange thing, know. And but the number 12, say, in line, can now move in and now get the registration or the permit to grow the weed for the experiment. And the Bulldog is one of the main companies of this number 12, called Kan Adelaar. So this is kind of interesting. We got Cookies in there, we got the Bulldog in there, we got Dutch Passion in there. So for
Karma Genetics.
For part we have like really it's foreign money or foreign companies, about half I would say, but the other half have some interesting, say, heritage type brands and people that have been in the Dutch cannabis industry for a long time. So this, I sort of agree, I think, with Rens also, because I did see some weed here and there.
I have to be clear, it's super frustrating to wait all this time, and that there are. I'm busy with it since 2018, so at least 4 years I'm working with
still
it.
No weed.
But it's just like, it's better that we do it good and just not over stressed or whatever. And it's clearly not the government that is acting to fight.
No, it's
against,
true.
you know, it's
It's
not
true.
really. People think it's like a whole
You
setup.
get a lot of
It's not.
journalists who say it is postponed
Yeah,
again,
exactly. And
but the word postponed is not correct. It's
It's
like
just not that easy, huh?
yeah, it takes a lot more time, and everybody's trying very hard. But again, because it's so rigid, and they have, for instance, said all 10 growers should start at the same time. We cannot have if like 4 are already doing it, that they can start selling to the coffee shops. We want it to be all together at once, which is of course it's almost like a Soviet style way of doing this. Imagine that in a normal market you would say, okay, we wait until 10 companies are ready to go, and up till then we have no product nowhere. It's really
It's frustrating.
I can imagine your frustration, but like I was saying,
But
I do agree that the quality will be good.
Yeah.
You know, the wheat will be good. So then it's up to is the price good for that product, and this is what I'm curious about.
But I'm also like, I think it's also better to wait till 80% of the companies is ready to go, because if they would start now with only Vita,
Mhm.
then all the 80 coffee shops are allowed to only buy from one thing.
In Waalwijk.
And if it's not good, they're all fucked. And then the experiment
That's true.
is not good.
And I think also for the consumers and for media, this will be a killer. If the weed is bad in the start, then people will not trust it and go to another town.
So-
Because that's of course also what people have to realize. About 79 coffee shops are in this experiment, and we have about 570 to 580 coffee shops in all the country. So 500 coffee shops, everything remains the same. It's a legal market, illegal growing, no laboratory check, nothing. So this is also one of the things that you would say, come on, if we had a government that look a bit to Biden and Scholz, that they could speed up the process, you know?
Yeah, indeed. Well, I hope for Super Relief they will find a solution. And
Because they are going to court over it.
yeah, they will. They have a big group behind it. So
Listen to our next episodes to hear how this is all
exactly.
developing.
News from our big neighbor Germany.
Whoop whoop.
A group of members of the parliament has traveled to the United States and Canada to learn about the legal cannabis industry.
Yeah, these were 8 members of the Bundestag, as the German parliament is known. And this I found interesting. The delegation consisted of members of the Greens, so like our GroenLinks, the CDU-CSU, which is your Christian party, the biggest one, like our CDA. Then SPD, who are in the government, is more like our PvdA Workers' Party. The FDP, which is like the Liberal Party. Die Linke. That's like far left and not in the coalition, I think. And then also one member of the AFD, which is like your right-wing PVV, Geert Wilders style.
Yeah, all of them were there, huh? One from each, as it seems.
Yeah, but to me that was like really impressive. Because for the first thing, never have Dutch members of parliament made a trip like this to Canada or to the USA to study the legalization there. And if they would have done it, I would say, it'd be like left-wing parties going there, but the others going, we don't want to learn anything about it.
Yeah,
So-
it's definitely a big step. We can see that Germany is serious about this business and about legalization. But it's we can already see it here with the WIT experiment. It's just a social experiment. It took more than 4 years. So the complicated thing about this is now, how do we get it all together, and how do we get it together like in the 4 years, in the next 3 years that they are still in coalition? Because otherwise, the way it's going, next in 2025, the CSU, CDU might be there, and they will not care about this. They are totally against legalization. So the coalition has now to find a way to push it forward fastly in a right way, and to deal with all the legal stuff that that's in between from the UN side, but also from the European side. So yeah, it's not easy. It will take time, but it's definitely a step forward. I hope that they also visit Spain and look at the social clubs, because for me that's the best way we could. And we definitely need social clubs in Germany. We definitely need it.
And I don't really have the impression that that's part of the political debate. Of course, I read the text that was in the coalition program of Germany, where they talk about Fachgeschäfte, like professional stores. But they are not talking about home growing in that text, and neither about clubs. Huh?
Home growing is in the text.
Okay.
It was in the text back with not in the coalitional agreement, but back in the statement that the Greens made years ago. I think 2016 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the growing at home will be allowed. It has to be allowed. But yeah, you're totally right. It's more like a capitalistic point of view. So if you look at also the coalition, it's based on the FDP, for example. It seems very much that it was like obviously for the electional reasons to put it in there, but also for the money they make out of it. University back there, where I'm coming from, in Düsseldorf, they made a study which they said they can gain 2 billion in tax money.
Yeah.
And that, of course, lets it roll. Huh? And that works easily at the easiest when you have like a capitalistic company that's all about... yeah, but I think we really have to also focus, and that would be a part of the German government to see, okay, we have like the big companies, we have the medical companies, whatever, they're doing their stuff, but who else could we sponsor and help really to build something differently, to work with cannabis differently, and not only on the level of legalization, for example, but on the other levels, for paper, for clothing, for plastics, things like that. And that's, I think, really the responsibility of the government to say, okay, we make a funding. They also had it like a stimulus thing in LA. And then we help the people that are really in the business, that really want to change things, also from like the point of view that we can change for the nature out there. We can make big changes. That we push them.
Mm-hmm.
So this, for me, would be like a fair solution for the market. And I really, really hope, fingers crossed, that it will be fast. I don't think that we will smoke a legal joint next year. I'm not that positive. I don't
But what
see
about
it.
2024?
Well, 2024, we have to smoke it before the elections.
If you compare the two countries, it's of course interesting that here we have the two Christian parties in the government that they don't like it whatsoever, but they still have put their signature underneath to do at least the weed experiment. So for us, there's not a real risk. It's more here. I don't expect any progressive left-wing big score with the next elections in the Netherlands, but maybe we don't need it because even the Christian parties, they sort of okayed the weed experiment. They have to do it. But yeah, it takes a very long time. So yeah, this is interesting. And I saw a report on the website of the Niagara College Cannabis Institute, which is in Canada, obviously. I've been to Niagara on my trip to Canada, looking at the groweries, and now they have like a full education institute all about cannabis, where those German members of parliament went, and they were very proud, the institute themselves, to receive from Europe, and all these important politicians. So I think this is all very positive. It makes me happy to get these kind of positive stories.
Yeah, and also let's talk about America. It says because let's first, I think, we talk about Biden.
Yeah, it was huge. Last night, we are recording this episode October 7 in the afternoon, and in Dutch time it was, I think, something like 10 o'clock.
I saw it around 12 o'clock, but I was late. So
so on Twitter and I think on all other social media as well, Biden had this message, and it was basically fantastic. I thought, especially the first tweet where he's going like, nobody should be in jail for simple possession or use of marijuana. Is a very strong statement. I totally agree with him. Absolutely. I also think that nobody should be in jail for selling it or growing it or wholesaling it. And of course, Biden didn't go into all that. But also in the first analysis that we have already seen on the subject, the real, probably most impactful thing that he has announced is that there will be a review of the schedule. That cannabis is still in the same schedule with heroin and fentanyl, and that this might change. And this is widely seen as really first major steps towards decriminalization and ultimately also legalization.
I can maybe try to. This is going to be the tryout.
Be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana. It's already legal in many states, and criminal records for marijuana possession have led to needless barriers to employment, to housing, to educational opportunities. And that's before you address the racial disparities around who suffers the consequences. While white and black and brown people use marijuana at similar rates, black and brown people are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionately higher rates. So today, I'm taking 3 steps to end this failed approach. First, I'm announcing a pardon for all prior federal offenses for the simple possession of marijuana. There are thousands of people who are convicted for marijuana possession who may be denied employment, housing, or educational opportunities as a result of that conviction. My pardon will remove this burden on them. Second,
I will put the link on our IT, but it's world news.
It's history.
I had
being
to
made.
try to connect it with the Roder podcast, and it worked. It's the first time preview, but it was for me when I was last night watching Instagram. I was like, holy shit! Oh, yeah, for me it's a big step, at least.
If you see how much coverage it has already got, from Le Monde to German main media in Australia, immediately also like follow-ups. What does this mean for us? Isn't it time that we would also do it? In the UK, you see it picked up like that and framed like that also. Because funnily, really, is that in the UK, just like a week ago or something, there has been a new debate that they should take cannabis into even a higher category because it's so strong and because schizophrenia and all other bullshit. So that's exactly the other way around, like what Biden is doing now. So a lot of activists point out, rightly so, that it's really the UK is on an island, on another planet, if it concerns cannabis. Very
Huge
repressive.
Step forward.
Yeah, I think it is. You get some people saying, it's just before the midterm elections. He only does it to get young voters. Yeah, okay, it's a vote winner, but it can still be a good policy and a good change.
And as you said, the world is watching and they are seeing. And it's also like the thing with Germany. Maybe they don't get it right in the next couple of years, but it's a statement for the world. We start thinking like with Malta and everything. It's good. We move forward, even if it's baby steps.
More countries.
Our kids will
Every
fight for this
episode
too.
We get more countries getting online or at least planning to do so.
And also, American midterm elections will be held next month, and voters in 5 states can vote to legalize cannabis in their state. It's also a big thing.
Yeah, I have the list here. It's Arkansas, Maryland, Missouri, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And I read somewhere that if they all approve, and it seems that they will, that all the initiatives and also it's not only it's not only ballot initiatives.
She's also happy with the news.
Totally, she should. But also local governments making their own plans for legalization, and that you can vote for them. And then if they all get through, it means that pretty much half of all the inhabitants of the United States will have legal recreational, so adult use cannabis. So that'd also be a huge milestone. That's around the corner because the midterm elections are on November 8th.
Yeah.
So very close. Next month we could have 5 more states coming online.
Super cool. Over to the Czech Republic, the National Anti-Drug Coordinator Jindřich Voboril is preparing a legalization law that should be enforced by January 2024 at the latest.
This guy Voboril, he has been pro-legalization for a very long time, and just earlier this year, I think in February, he returned to the position of anti-drug coordinator, which is of course kind of an Orwellian name, seeing that he is really, he's really planning on legalizing cannabis finally, because as some listeners I think will know, we have of course Cannabis in Prague. And for at least 20 years, there has been sort of a tolerance policy, very unclear, but not really repressive. And now it looks that they are finally making this more formal. And indeed, the guy has said, we want it up and running by 2024, early 2024 at the latest. So let's see. It's really turning into a nice sport event which country will have the legal weed first, you know?
We got the best agreements.
Luxembourg tried. But on the other hand, I heard that in Prague, there are already, like when you go outside, there are like these little bars where you can go in and people are smoking. So
It's been like that for a long time.
Exactly.
So it's all non-official, and I think medical cannabis is officially legal, but like also in a lot of countries, that for the patients it's still shit. You know, it's either too expensive or hard to get, or you don't get a prescription or whatever. So that's also still going on in Czech. So room for improvement.
Yep. We usually don't have good news from Belgium, but in this episode we do. Because hemp is used on a piece of land in Belgium that is heavily polluted with the PFAS. PFAS. And is working very well.
Yeah, PFAS, I looked it up, what you call it in English. It's per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances. So, well, it's really rubbish. You know, it's chemical shit that's very harmful for nature.
I heard a commercial the whole time on the radio. It's about PFAS. I say those things if there's a fire.
the hydrant.
Yeah,
right?
Fire extinguishers.
Yeah, in the old one, it's full with PFAS, and they want to
change it over.
Yeah, so
it's a big problem. The factory, it's 3M, quite a well-known chemical company in Zwijndrecht. We also have a Zwijndrecht in the Netherlands, but this is Zwijndrecht in Belgium. And one very smart businessman put forward the idea to plant hemp on the polluted site, because they
Very
have,
clever.
they have of course some evidence of that. In Fukushima, they also did it with the nuclear plant there. So this, just recently he had the very first results, because it's the season, of course, if you plant outside. And it worked like a charm. Not only did it remove the PFAS from the topsoil, but it also cleaned the groundwater as well. And
Sheesh.
so now he's working
Beautiful.
together with the factory. I like that too. They are the ones that should, of course, pay for all the costs, you know, or to plant it like on a much bigger scale. Plant more hemp and clean the soil. So I think we had to include this.
Did you mention the guy?
The guy who done it, let's see. No, I do have him. He's called Frederik Verstraeten. Big him up.
Good,
Good on this guy.
Good job.
Frederik Verstraeten.
Yeah.
Doing great.
More news. You had a special guest from Malta last month over here, Derek.
Yeah, this was quite a
Did
nice...
your wife know about it?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
they both liked each other very much. She was also not too big, and a bit like my wife, my lovely small wife. Now she was the Mariella Dimek is her name, and she's the head of the National Cannabis Authority in Malta. And this visit was set up. She was 3 days, I think, in the Netherlands by my friend and colleague from Italy, Emanuele Milazzo, who has been here at the VOC office, I think 6 years ago for the first time. Very active. We ran a social club, I think, in the Canarian Islands also for a while. And now back in the Netherlands planning this visit. And his first stop actually was The Hague to go to Dizzy Duck.
I heard, yeah.
And they also visited Wageningen Research University, where there's also a cannabis program. So very smart, you know, that you can see it in this super high-tech agricultural environment of the Wageningen University. And then they also paid a visit to Eindhoven to visit the VOC office right here. And we visited the Pink coffee shop to talk to Lisa Lankes. And it was this was quite an unforgettable moment to see these two women who were discussing cannabis and regulation and the way you should do it with such passion, you could say. Because Malta, we talked about it before, maybe not on an English episode, but there they are going for cannabis social clubs, very non-commercial model. And one of the things she explained is that they are really going for legalization in phases. So she said eventually it will be commercial in Malta. We probably cannot stop it. But we start in the first phase by saying, no, only cannabis social clubs, 500 members maximum. There will be 5 licenses in the beginning. It's very small, Malta. I think it's only about 250,000 people living there, so it's more like a city. But still, to only have 5 is not that much. No consumption on site. You cannot smoke in the club. And she explained it a bit by saying everybody in Malta drives a car or
we
a
have to.
motorized vehicle. Nobody goes with the public transport. I visited Malta once,
Yeah,
and I
me
was
too.
really in love with the nice yellow old buses that they have. But she had to laugh very hard when I told her about it, because she said, yeah, but nobody in Malta uses public transport. They all want to drive their car. And then she wants to really prevent criticism about that. That if you smoke at the club, yeah, then you get into your car, be a problem. But yeah, I also, of course, tried to lobby a bit, because as VOC we did give some input before the legalization, stressing also home growing and cannabis social clubs, by saying that it's really important, like the coffee shops work as well, that you are together with friends and with other people that like cannabis, that can get you, teach you about the culture. And maybe also, if you go a bit too fast, that can tell you, slow down a bit, maybe start smoking hashies or whatever. That social aspect is super important. And yeah, if it's not allowed to use in the club, that whole idea is gone. And also with the plants, you can have 4 plants per household, but I think the maximum amount you can have in your house in dried cannabis is 50 grams. So you have to be a pretty goddamn awful grower to just get 12.5 grams dry cannabis off one plant. I get a lot more from my plants, like 10 times as much usually. So, and she acknowledged this, that this made really no sense. But again, it's in phases. So I was happy to, she spent, I think, 2 to 3 hours here talking about all aspects, of cannabis legalization and also the hemp thing. And then I casually mentioned my own plants on the balcony, and I saw her eyes widen a bit. So I asked her, do you want to see my plants? I had to take her through my own bedroom to get to the balcony, but I thought, why not? She's here now.
I want to see them too, though.
I will show you to them. Of course, if the head of the National Cannabis Authority of Malta can see them, you can surely see them, Nyke. But then she said, and it's in a way it's tragic. She said, "That's the first time I ever see a live cannabis plant."
Oi.
She couldn't believe it, and she has that job, and I think it's also well paid. But she was a very friendly woman, very open, and I think she's working, of course, within the Maltese culture, which is like very Catholic, conservative on quite a few aspects in the society. And she stressed a few times, I didn't make the policy. I have to work with the policy, and I can maybe advise how we can do it better. And that's, if you take a trip like this, organized also really by an activist, I think it's great. I haven't seen that from Dutch ministers, and neither from Germans. Really.
No, the Germans, they just have to go across the border, huh? But they don't so far. They go to America. But I find the idea of the rolling it out in phases, I find it quite interesting. And I think that's something that Germany should consider too. But as I said, again, it's a very capitalistic push over there, so I don't see that coming. But it would be a chance for them to say, okay, we go for an experiment thing, because under law that would be possible. Like that would be the fastest way. Say, okay, we make an experiment and then see after 4 years, whatever, and then really push it on the social clubs, because this way you really get the people who want to be in this business, huh? And then of course the medical companies, for example, they can still do their medical stuff, and then after 4 years, when we see, okay, how is it working, then we can open up and make it more. But I think it's at least a nice way. It's not perfect. Nothing will be perfect, but it's at least a nice way the Maltese are trying to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna eat some Maltesers on that if it's
delicious.
No, but I think you're definitely right, and I think it's also in Holland. It's also happening like this with the experiment. It's just a small step, and if that works, they can expand.
Yeah, but in the Dutch situation, really, our experiment has been lasting 46 years.
That's
the
true.
experiment to have the shops. Well, what's the main thing that we learned? You should legalize the production too, and legalize the whole thing. Not have this stupid tolerance policy that really makes anybody in the cannabis industry into sitting ducks. They can be shut down anytime. If you are a grower, if you're a coffee shop owner, there's really not much right that you have. Surely you make some money, that's a good thing, but you have to look over your shoulder a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Our South American friends from Fields of Green.
South African, eh?
What I say?
South American.
Ooh.
You were thinking of a whole different train.
Okay, cut. Our South African friends from Fields of Green for All has announced a sequel to the trial of the plant 5 years after the original trial began and 4 years after the judgment that effectively decriminalized the personal and private use, possession and cultivation of cannabis.
Yes, indeed. And if you haven't heard it yet, check out episode 15 of the High Tea podcast with the Dagger couple that we recorded in Barcelona, actually, just a few weeks before the tragic death and murder, really, of Jules Stops, who was half of the Dagger couple, during an armed robbery at their farm. So this, of course, has been very hard for Myrtle, who's the other half of the Dagger couple. And I was very happy to see the press release that they are ready to restart it again. And I have the press release here, I think. And I also want to point out to the show that these people are really fantastic activists. And if you have any euros to spare to put into a good cause, then head over to their website or check their social media on the Dagger couple, because I think they fight a very important fight. Let's see, here's the press release. 4 years have now passed since the 2018 judgments, as have tragically the lives of both Jules Stops and Thorpe. But we feel no closer to a reasonably regulated trade in South African cannabis than we were back in 2017 when fighting the trial of the plants. And that's basically the reason why they now want to go for the reopening of the case of the original trial of the plant. We will be meeting with our lawyers and narrowing our challenges so as to not fight over territory already gained. Our focus fundamentally will be to ensure that anyone who wishes to is allowed to earn a living through cannabis, as so many are hypocritically permitted to do through the cultivation and trade in everything related to alcohol and tobacco. In addition, we plan to eliminate some of the rats and mice left behind by the 2018 judgment, which seemingly provide quarter to the state parties and their agents to trample on our hard-won human rights. So, yeah, in the original trial of the plant, they had a lot of foreign experts come to South Africa, including Professor David Nutt, for instance. And it was super impressive. It was all live on the internet, and I think you can still see it back as well. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because this was a big victory when the highest court of South Africa back then said it was just unconstitutional to ban cannabis in your own private space, including the growing of cannabis.
Yep. Our final news story is from Colombia, one of the countries that suffers the most because of the war on drugs. On October the 4th, lawmakers approved a bill to legalize and regulate cannabis. Right?
Yeah, this is they have a new president in Colombia, Petro, he's called. And he has always, Gustavo Petro, been critical of the war on drugs. And he was actually, his very first speech to the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York, he basically talked a lot only about the war on drugs. And he said, the war on drugs has lasted 40 years. If we do not correct the course, and this continues another 40 years, the United States will see 2.8 million die of overdoses. And you will see millions of African Americans be imprisoned in their private prisons. And he also said a particularly good line, I think. I propose to you, as president of one of the most beautiful and bloodied countries on earth, to end the war on drugs and thus allow our people to live in peace. So beautiful words, and he's putting them into practice, at least for cannabis. And I think now finally we will see also in Colombia cannabis really being legalized. So again,
yeah, it's super nice. And
Alrighty.
I hope it will continue.
Yep.
Many good news, huh?
Yeah, we end with some good news, and it's high time we go deeper and we focus more on our guest today, Nyke. Shall we start it off?
that's good. I think most people are very intrigued and want to know who is the owner of this beautiful, beautiful voice with slight German accent, but really not so much as you usually get with Germans. So let's take it back a bit. We like to ask our guests, because we have plenty of time to talk, sit back and smoke some good weed. Can you tell us a bit about how and where you were brought up?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Nyke. So I'm a cannabis entrepreneur, activist, I was based the last couple of years in Germany. So I really fought like the last 3 years over there in Germany. I said, okay, now it's the time to show my face, because I was super frustrated, honestly. I always knew that I want to go into this industry. So that's where it started. I was 21 and I started to smoke when I moved to Antwerp. And that's where I discovered, because of the near border to Amsterdam, of course, that's where I discovered cannabis. And I saw, okay, it's helping me. And it's helping me a lot with my studies and to calm down. And basically, it made me the person that I am today. So I'm very, very thankful for cannabis. And I realized that I want to help people with this plant, because as much as it helps me, it can help people. And then I got into it and learned more and more and really understood, it's not only the consumption and the medical thing, because I think that many people that are using it recreationally actually are using it medically. But it's also so much more. It's also the aspects that we can make out of hemp, as we had it before in the news. We can clean the soil. We can make clothing with it that spares like 80% of water compared to cotton. That's amazing.
The Belgian guy that is growing the plants, that's part of his business idea, is to use those plants for building material.
Exactly.
So yeah,
exactly.
you have it clean the soil and the groundwater as well, and you have it as a very durable resource for building.
So there was me understanding more about the plant and really getting fascinated with it. And I always say, for me, it's like my muse, my lover. She's my doctor, my therapist, and of course a friend. And
but let's go back just one step. You
yes.
said you learned smoking in Antwerp, but
Exactly.
I'm curious about then. Was it like local weed from some dealer, or would somebody bring it from the Netherlands, or would you go yourself to the Netherlands, or how?
I would go myself to the Netherlands.
Okay, and so what do you must remember it, because it's it can be quite an experience. Your very first time that you like enter the coffee shop to actually buy the weed. Which city was this? Can you take us back to that moment?
I think I'm pretty sure it was Amsterdam, and it was either let me think, the Greenhouse or the Bulldog, one of those both. But I don't remember the first time I entered the coffee shop. I don't remember that. I remember that the first times, it was like pretty jiggly in the legs, and I was like, okay, can I ever walk again, and things like that. Yeah,
but you were well over you're the right age and everything.
Exactly.
You didn't have to worry about that.
No. And I can say, like, before that, it was a lot of alcohol, and I'm not that into alcohol anymore. Like it was quite the time when I also stopped about it. But sure, you were studying and everything. But for me, I wish like this phase maybe have started earlier, like with 18 or so. So the thing also why I started so late with smoking, and 21 is quite late, right? Most of the people they are like with 14 or so they try it. But
it's a good idea, actually.
It's a good idea. Yeah, it is, and I would recommend it to everyone. But for me, it was because I was raised in Hungary, so I lived like most of my years from 9 till 18. I lived in Hungary. And there it's very conservative, and still it is. And it wasn't that easy to get to weed, and we just didn't have it. Like, sure, friends had it, but it wasn't that common. So you rather go to alcohol, and the things that happen on alcohol, crazy, huh? But yeah, and that's why I started so late. But then with the full love, huh?
Yeah, that's funny. So, like you said before, like really always knew that you wanted to work in the industry. So how did you go from just visiting those first coffee shops to knowing this is really my thing?
Well, it's the way that weed, the impact of that weed had on me. The way that it helped me really to calm down, to focus. Sometimes, and that's I think also a thing that people are very afraid of, like seeing those dark sides of you. But we're all built of the brighter and the darker side. Like we all have it inside of us, and to really understand also, like some of my moves, why I make them, or why I feel sometimes like that. And it's so hard if you go through that, because you have to really focus on things that you normally have in the behind of your back, and that's really in your head, and that's I really think why people are sometimes afraid, because you meet those demons. Huh?
Yep. Yep.
You have to really talk to those demons and find your peace with them. But that's what I said. It made me the person that I am. And basically, it was like 21 then. The question was after my studies, so do I go back to Germany or what do I do? And I was thinking about going to Amsterdam and just making some edibles, selling them. That was 2012. Yeah, 2012, 2013. But then how life comes, I went to Germany and I started just like a normal career path first. So I started in marketing and sales. And I made a very, very fast career. Like in 4.5 years, I was senior manager, really managing all media agencies in Germany, big clients like, for example, MediaMarkt, Fressnapf, things like that, Aldi. And I was making the campaigns for them and basically getting the money for the companies, like good money. And what always hurt me was that as soon as I told the people, I'm smoking and I might smoke 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a day, whatever, and I'm still capable and I'm this professional stoner, it was like, oh, Nyke, are you sure that you're not sick? Like you should maybe like get some help. And the way the view of you changes, it really fucked me up. So at that point when I was like in a senior management point and I was sitting there and being depressive again and again because of my work, and I was like, okay, shit, life was like too precious and too short. To just sit at a job that you don't like. So yet now
And that you have the stigma and the judgment.
Exactly. And there was the point when I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to put my face out there and I'm going to start to work in the cannabis business. And that's 3 years ago. So here we are now.
Oh, I'd say it's kind of a brave step to take.
Yeah, for sure. It's also funny, a thing we were beforehand, we of course talk about you a little bit and about the game. And then Derek really came up with a funny thing.
Yeah, this was
we have to play.
remarkable.
Oh, yeah. I am also, but
My youngest son Simon, who still lives at home, when I explained that we were doing the podcast today with you and that you made this game called Green Deal, then he said, that's really I know this game and I don't know it through you, Dad.
No.
Like normally because I'm the cannabis guy. He said, isn't this like this sort of a card game where you are more like a business tycoon in the cannabis industry? So I said, yeah, that's it.
It's beautiful.
So that's really it reached Eindhoven for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
it makes me super happy. Yeah, it's a lot of work. The last 3 years, it's been a lot of work.
Take us back to the
please,
beginning.
from
Like
the beginning.
The beginning. Okay, the beginning. Quite like when I started, I was with these 3 guys, and how it is many times in startups, you have to be very flexible, and things change. So I started off with the 3 guys, and eventually our visions weren't the same, so we split up. And I was sitting there, like it was half a year later, and thinking, okay, what should I do? And what I saw back then is that many of these CBD companies, they're suffering in Germany because basically they have, how would you put it, like a legal product because it's not having no THC in it. It's just a hemp material at the end, but still it's not regulated, and therefore they had like many. How would you say that when a police raids, many raids, and many times it was within the industry what you could see, like the people are really trying to keep their part and then going against their competitors and things like that. So I was sitting there and I thought, okay, you have some money on side, but when you start in a CBD industry, even if it's like with cosmetics or whatever, you might lose it all because you just invest into the products and the police comes and they take it all away. So that's quite frustrating. But on the other hand, we see where the market is in Germany right now, because you can only really form a company if you have the money. But all the guys with the money, really the ones that really bring the right things into this industry. Anyways, and I had to somehow deal with this frustration, and out of that, Green Deal was basically born. I was on a holiday, and I wanted to show people how it is to really passionately go into something and then possibly losing it all. And that's what I did with the card game.
Okay.
So I basically wanted to do something fun that's for everybody, not just the cannabis people, but where you can sit down and instead of Uno, just play Green Deal. Okay, so first you have to understand. But then when you get in it, and that's what I love about this game, the people like really have the passion in it and they really like feeling it, frustration and the fun of gaining. And I think it makes people think a little bit about the situation we're in. And it will also in the future, hopefully, remind them of where we came from, of this 100 years of prohibition. Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's interesting. Really a reality-based game in a way.
Exactly. And I didn't stop there, though. I didn't stop there because I was
I'm also curious about this. So you have this idea, or even you have the product, but how do you go from there? How do you market? How do you get people to know that this game exists?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it started with the strategy. So the game, I made it up all myself. So I sat down, and this is also thanks to Mary Jane. I had the idea, what do I want to show people? Then I started to analyze other games. I smoked one, and then basically it was done. I had it on paper and then started to trial and test and everything. The next step was like getting a friend on board who's a designer, and she made all the designs. Lilo Detweiler, you can find her on Instagram. She did these amazing designs. And then, of course, finding the right companies for production, because for me, and that's what I say with everything that I do, I don't want to push another company into this world that is just like polluting. I don't want to push another company in it where we don't know how the products are made. But I think that every new company that is formed has to think about these things, about labor. Is it like good labor that's made with my products? Is it like good products? So what I'm doing is like I'm producing over here in Europe, all from like paper. I wanted it from hemp paper, what we're not at that point yet. All from paper that is like certified and everything.
It's still hard to get hemp paper at all. And
it's super hard.
The prices are very high.
It's super hard. And but for the playing cards, you have to have the right machines and everything. We're not on that point yet. But that's when the other point came, when I said, okay, we're pushing this, but it was more like a side thing, because my main thing was like really focusing on solutions from cannabis for people, for planet. Mm-hmm. So I went into the clothing, and that's still what's in the background, but it's this huge project, it's a bigger project. So I'm focusing on clothing like we wear it now, not this hemp clothing that we know at the moment, like really hemp clothing like we know the clothing now. And making like unisex clothing so people can wear it and they can give it to their kids, because hemp is a robust material. We can wear it over and over and over again, and we can really do some good with it. So yeah, that's running in the background.
Yeah,
and actually I even got a scholarship for that from the German government. So whoop whoop.
All right,
that's
the
excellent.
Germans are really I say that
advancing.
Yeah, but they love to give money to activists as well, right?
Well, yeah, it seems sort of. I don't know. What would you say?
I would still say it's hard. But yeah, we're making the moves, and we're trying to survive. Like, yeah.
Because it reminds me of the story of Gurig, of how the other guy who won $1 million.
Georg, yeah.
Georg, who...
Yeah, well, that's of course a fantastic story. He's coming to Eindhoven next month, so
we have to get him for the podcast.
I think we can invite him to the podcast. He'll be on the PCN symposium it's the coffee shop union, the PCN, and they're organizing it on November 4th. We can put a link in the show notes also for the Dutch speaking listeners, of course, because there will be an international debate on which Georg will be, and also Robert Hoban from the USA, so be a good international panel. But yeah, he won. He did this program Millionaires Waal, and everybody had to sort of explain what they were going to do with the money. And Georg basically said, "I will make more campaign to legalize cannabis in Germany," and he won $1 million, which is fantastic, of course.
Amazing.
Yeah, I did, and of course, I think his organization, Deutsche Handverband, has played quite a big role in moving things forward the way that they have. They are really the biggest pro-legalization NGO in Europe, not only of Germany, but the whole of Europe. I think he employs something like 20 people, or it's really a professional outfit. So very inspiring. When things move so slowly in the Netherlands, we can at least look abroad and see some positive, faster developments.
You also said you were chief editor.
Yes. Yeah, basically doing many things. Like at this point, as I said, 3 years ago, I really decided I would go in there. And now it's not. It's many things that I'm doing. It's like my own companies with the card game, with the clothing and things like that. But it's also, for example, the Instagram part where it's all about educating and really showing people also part of my life, and hopefully, helping people to make their life decisions. You know, like maybe if it's not the right job, quit it. If you want to move, just do it. Also, I really hope that I be a role model for maybe some women that see, okay, we can just start our own company, things like that. But yeah, I'm also coaching from the last couple of years that I learned, like all in the industry and marketing and things like that. I'm coaching, trying to give all that I learned back to people. And I'm also working for a German Cannabis magazine by sides. So I'm doing a lot of things, and it's basically all about the plant and trying to help people, connecting people, trying to help this planet.
That's really, really cool. Yeah. Also, I know you since I think 1.5 years or something on Instagram. You make all those stories and movies. What point you thought, okay, let's go for it. Let's just put my face on the camera.
Yeah, because that's indeed another step.
It's
To
two
not
steps.
hide, you know, is one thing, but to
Also,
really
Yeah,
put yourself out there.
it was 2019 in December. Like that was the part where I started, where I said, "Okay, fuck it all."
It's
and then
COVID times anyway.
And
you know.
I think it was
I have to
like
be at home.
well, it wasn't yet.
Lockdown?
It wasn't yet COVID.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't. No,
Just
no. It
before.
started in February. Like the end of February is when it started over in Germany.
yeah.
But no, for me, it was really like this being fed up and knowing the point where I stand in life. You know, it's a certain point, like before maybe with 20, you're like, okay, what can I reach? What can I do? Who am I? Whatever. You're like on finding your way. But I knew that I found my way, and I knew that I love this plant, and I knew that all this work, this fast route in my career, I couldn't do it without the plant. I couldn't have, because I would just be burned out all the time. And I really understood myself, and I was like, okay, I know who I am, and people can say whatever they want. I'm at the phase where I accepted myself and where I want to do something good. So I will put my face out there, because I want to show I want to act against this cliche. And I think it's an important thing, because people then can see that it's not only what the media has been telling them, but it's like people, you and me, everybody can be a stoner. And many people are stoners, and in Germany they still hide it. So many people are really coming to me and telling me, "Oh, Nyke, we're so happy that you're doing this, because we can't do it, but you're still giving us motivation and things like that." So for me, it was. It wasn't that difficult a decision. It was a point where I said, okay, that this is now the time to do it, and I don't regret it at all. Like, I'm where I want to be.
So how about like the family thing? Because
I
that's
was
also
just thinking
that
about
holds
it
a
the
lot of
same.
people back as well. Like your professional life, your colleagues is one thing, and if you decide to do it like on your own, you know, as your own entrepreneur person, then you don't have to worry too much about that. But your family will always be there. How is that? Can you explain a bit?
Like my parents are also very old, very old and conservative.
Yeah, but in Hungary there has been hemp for centuries. Then
There has been, but still, like they are also they were brainwashed because of the THC. But my luck was that our luck and not luck at the same time. A long-known neighbor from my parents, he's a professor, and my parents like him because he's a professor, so they trust him. And his wife, she was sick, and she got cannabis. And my dad, he's also sick, and he's having all this pain and many multiple things. He's also older. And then the neighbor said, "Hey, why don't you try cannabis? It might help you." For my wife, it helped like really good. And he
was
was
it like
advocating.
oil or just
It
weed?
was oil back then. It was
Okay.
oil back then. Funnily, what happened is that my dad was taking this oil, and he even got into a process in Germany for driving a car while having THC in his blood.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but
It happens to the best.
yeah, but he was how would you say that? They said it's okay. So
Okay.
yeah.
wow.
But that was before I started the company. So I think that was like 2018, 17, something like that. And
So you didn't have to explain them too
well,
much.
yeah, my parents were still critical. So my dad, after that, he was like, and my mom too. So for a long time, she saw me like also like a drug addict. But then more and more, I could explain to her. And basically, I think it started really with the game and also with the clothing that she saw. Oh, we can do different things out of this.
Yeah, there's more to it.
And yeah, that's also a thing that she's telling me now, because now she's really into it, and she's really like, okay, you have to go to the politicians, you have to approach the politicians, because this is the way we can do it. I'm like, yeah, mom, okay. What do you think when I'm doing it like this? But now she's really supportive, and actually, I even smoked a joint, like I think like 2 months ago, my first joint with my dad. And he was so cute. Like, he was doing it like a pro. So I think he smoked before, like maybe not cannabis, but tobacco for sure. Like, he had some tricks. Wow. And, and,
What a way to reconnect.
yeah. And it was beautiful because he was like, wow, do you have more? Can I have another puff? Can you bring me some? And at the end, we were really in this discussion, like, okay, he was like, can't we grow some? And I'm like, yeah, sure, we can grow some there, but that's not the country to grow, huh? And then we were in discussion to talk about why isn't it allowed? And, it's beautiful to be at that point with your parents where they are also like understanding and pushing and saying, oh, the law doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't.
I can tell you with my dad as well, who I once said, maybe if I have like 1 or 2 plants too much and you are in the summer in your own house, because he doesn't live far away from here, maybe I can have a plant at your place, but if the police comes, then you have to give it up and you might be in trouble. And then he was really going, well, we're gonna see about that. If some police guy comes into my garden telling me it's my plant and he's taking it, I don't think I'll let him do it, And then I'm going, yeah, great dad. And it's true, it's your own garden. What the hell are we talking about, It's your own choice.
But it's
Should be
nice
your own
that your
choice.
family is backing you up. That's also with my parents, I think they're both very enthusiastic.
Absolutely.
Of course,
sometimes it takes some time, but
yeah, my mother is always, it's the mother instinct that she's always scared of that I'm not ending in the wrong places at the wrong people. But
no, but really, also as a father myself, I can tell you, if you look at your own kids and you see that they are doing well, although you might have thought before, oh my God, they're turning into a musician or to whatever, to an economy professor, if that's what you really hate. But then if you see that they are happy and that they are functioning and that there's no problem, you are going to give up those prejudices. Otherwise, you are really lying to your own children. You can see, if they have a problem. And so, yeah. It's good. It's good that you get to that point.
Absolutely.
Cannabis and women. You don't see. To be honestly, you don't see too many girls in cannabis in Holland to really preaching out.
I think it's even better in Germany, actually.
Yeah, but that was I think I really
or not.
I think it's quite similar over here. So I was very happy when I was in Spain to see that there are really like so much women power over there. And to see so many women in that industry. But I think definitely there have to be more women, because we need we need both sides as always. It cannot be only the push from the men, for example. But yeah, it's an industry that's ruled by men, basically so far. And I think it has also something to do with that it was criminalized, because women tend, that's how I feel, women tend more to stick to that and be like, okay, it's criminalized, so I don't speak up, or I just do it or whatever. Because if we look at it, like almost also as many women smoke as men worldwide, so it's not that there are not women who are interested in this topic.
Maybe less risk taking,
Possibly, yeah.
But I have to say, I noticed that more, from my point of view, out of my point of view, on Instagram, I really see more ladies from Germany, an example from Spain, that's true. That is really, outgoing cannabis activists saying, I'm a girl, but I'm also smoke weed and fuck you all. If you think about it. But it's something I really miss here in the Netherlands. You know, it's
you don't get it much.
you don't have. I don't.
Yeah, but maybe it's also like over here. It's like people think that it's legal, basically, like because they don't go that far into the topic, and they just see, okay, we have the coffee shops and we can smoke, and we didn't have that in Germany. Over there, like I had to be afraid that they just come into my home because I put my face out there, and they see that I'm smoking, and like the possession alone is not allowed. So that's, for example, why I never had plants, because it was like if they come in, then I'm shit, and I'm a big shit. Yeah,
you might be in jail.
Yeah. Just for a plant, huh?
Actually, you talk about the Dutch situation. Just last week, I talked to this guy, and he said, I have 3 daughters, and they all are at university, and they all do those little pills, ecstasy. And also cocaine, he thought. And he said, if I talk to them or if they mention weed or hash, it's like really,
for losers.
for old people, it's so totally out of fashion, old-fashioned kind of thing, which I thought was indeed, interesting. Because I also think that for all the propaganda that we've seen here in the Netherlands over the last 15 years saying, the weed is so strong that it's effectively a hard drug, I really have the idea that very young people with very little experience, even if they are Dutch, it sort of works on their mind as well. So that, like it is in most countries, they are lying about all drugs. So probably, to take speed or to take cocaine, that's no problem either, because they lie about cannabis too, etc. Not being really truthful to the different drugs.
Oh, if cannabis is hard drugs, I can take that ecstasy pill as well.
Yeah, in sort of that respect, and to me there's always been quite a sort of a border between, say, natural drugs, as in mushrooms and weed and hash, like sort of natural products, and chemical drugs. I really like to avoid chemical drugs,
I don't. Once a year, I really like
course.
to.
It's always
I
good
can
to have
understand,
exceptions
but
for any rule.
I'm not a substance Nazi. No,
of course, I will never, have judgment on other people for the kind of drug that they're using. Would be totally hypocritical. But it's for me, for my own life, it's an important distinction. And I can, especially for younger people, it's good if they know the difference. That there are really some differences, and be honest about it.
What do you think? What is your plans for the future? What are you hoping for? I heard something about living in the Netherlands. Is that true?
Yes.
Or is that still a secret? We have to cut out.
No. I'm living in the Netherlands now. I think many people already thought that. So I think you won now like an influencer, female influencer over here in the Netherlands. Congratulations.
Cool. Yeah, nice. Finally, we have a girl.
No, but also, of course, like my game is coming now in at the end of this year. And the dog is like hyper about it. You can hear.
Yeah, she's interested.
Every time you mention the game, the dog goes wild.
Yeah, she loves it.
She's like a promotional tool.
Yeah, she's in it. She's in it basically because when the cops come or a thief, you can play a skunk. Because that explains the smell. And also if there's a skunk, nobody comes in. But she's basically the skunk. Like she's the inspiration for the skunk. I mean, look at her. Like, no, but the idea is, help the industry more to connect, network more, also build more and more with the clothing. There are more and more companies approaching me now who are really interested in having their own hemp clothing and branding it for themselves, which makes totally sense. When you're in the cannabis industry, then spend a little more time and get yourself like real hemp clothing. And it's made fairly in EU. Like that's really what you want, what you need, basically. But then also I really want to coach more and to help the industry more and more. So what I'm doing right now, a lot of times is like writing brand strategies, marketing strategies for companies in the industry and helping them, to approach the market and to talk to customers, social media, things like that. So I hope that will be also more in the future. But basically, it's just staying over here and educating people, helping planet.
So also a Dutch, how I say that? A variant, a Dutch version of the Green Deal will be in the Dutch coffee shops.
Well, possibly there will be Green Deal all over, but it's in English, so I think the Dutch don't have that big of problem with that.
True.
The cards will, I think, always be in English, except for when they when we go real viral. Then we can make them in different languages. But so far, it's like it's
in
basically
German you can use those lovely terms like bubatz and kiefen and all these words. You know? It will be cool.
But basically, like now it's
and it's a big market. Let's not forget.
It is.
A lot of Germans.
It is. We have the translation, for example, for the rules is in English. It's in Spanish. It's in French. Dutch so far not. So if anybody feels like they want to do the Dutch translation, feel free. You get a game. No, but it's basically just growing with the industry and doing some good. I really hope that at the end, like when I look back, I can say, okay, I did some good, and I motivated people and I connected people and I shared some love. I think that's the most important thing, because when you just fight alone, it's worth nothing. It's all about the motivation and inspiration.
Yeah, I think in some way you really inspire me as well, because you're really kicking ass and I see you all the places. It was a lovely time that you also came over to the Homegrown Cup, so that was also cool.
I really loved that chicken.
It was nice, eh?
I loved it. Next time I want to be there again. It's a very familiar atmosphere. It was beautiful, really.
I also really enjoyed the day.
Beautiful day also, huh? Sunshine, everything. Ugh.
Yeah, that's we're now busy with organizing one in the winter. So
this will be this December, I think. Huh?
Yeah, this December.
This year,
it's going to be the outdoor edition for everyone.
Oh, and I should start growing. Maybe then the Homegrown Cup after that. Huh?
Yeah. So if you have your own buds
go
ready,
for the indoor. Let's go.
Go for the girls category.
Is there a girls category?
No, but then we make one.
Well, this might
and the only girl in the category.
This might actually be a very good idea, I would say.
Yeah.
To promote female growers more, you know?
We had the crazy bag lady in the show at it's episode 7 or
Mara.
8, and she was saying at that time that she was going to organize a female-only Cannabis Cup.
Yeah, it's a super good idea.
Still, 2.5 years later, we still didn't hear anything about it.
I say just make like a female cup, you know, an extra category.
Yeah, a female category. That would
and
be
then
really
and
cool.
then it not so much in whether it's a sativa or a hybrid, but just you have to be a female grower and you just enter whatever you think is the best that you have grown.
It would be a start, huh?
But wouldn't that be like discriminating? Like, why would be a girl grower would be different than a guy?
But maybe it would be a push, because at the moment
that's more the thing
true.
to promote
like
it and to show it. You know, basically what the Homegrown Cup has always done for like any grower, to sort of celebrate the grower instead of criminalizing him and whatever, throwing him in jail or her. That you sort of put them on a pedestal and give them a prize and give them a good time. And this, we need more. We need more people to grow.
Shall we call
from
Mauro
any sex.
right in the? No.
Are we high enough to get also a great name for this cup, this female cup that you can now win?
The pink cup
or the Shiva, the golden Shiva.
Shiva, oh, that's beautiful. I like that.
The Shiva Secrets.
Shiva Secret Cup.
Anyway,
if Mara, the crazy bag lady, is listening to this episode, maybe she get the push to start the Shiva Cup.
Okay, Mara.
Call me Mara.
You do it, or you get 2 months.
You can call Nyke, no problem.
I'll
get her on Instagram.
She gets the first. Otherwise, we host one. No, but it's a good idea. I think we move on to the old segment. There, or you
Back
have
in the history.
Oh, you have because there are coming from more questions, but from the
Yeah, we put them in the listeners' response
Exactly,
segment. But
exactly.
I think one more question, which would be like quite ironic. You can now see the time planning for the German legalization and also for the Dutch weed experiment, which is, to remind listeners again, only in 10 cities, so not in a lot. I think it's at least theoretically possible that Germany will sooner have legal cannabis than the Netherlands. And then you have moved from Germany to the Netherlands. Won't you move back if that happens? Or don't you think it will happen?
No, well, on one side, seeing that the weed experiment takes so long makes me really think, okay, can we push it in Germany that fast? Because we see it's an experiment, and as I told you before, like we have problems from the UN sides with the law, we have problems from the EU side with the law, and the easiest way to to realize this for Germany or to legalize it is through pushing another experiment. Because in the law it says you're allowed to have weed for medical or for scientific use. So they could go that way. But when I hear over here that they already have like so many problems and it takes 4 years and everything, because that would be theoretically the easiest way to introduce it. But if it would take in Germany another 4 years, then the parties are gone. There's a new election and everything.
Don't you think that they should just push it through like Canada and Uruguay have done it as well? That they say, yeah, we know it's in the UN.
Yeah, well, it could be a try. It can be that it goes
because
that way, but on the
Germany
other hand,
is a big power,
yeah,
know?
but what they didn't have in Canada and in Uruguay is the European law, the European Commission and everything. So what could happen is that they say, okay, we don't care what the UN regulations say, we do it like Canada, for example. But then still there's the EU laws. So I'm not a lawyer, but
no,
like
I think
from what I
both
see,
instances, both the UN and the EU rules, they have no real sanctions that they can use if a country doesn't follow the rules like that. It's not that they will be kicked out of the EU or out of the UN. And it's more a question like, this is also what it's always stressed by a transnational institute, that if you don't follow the international treaties on the drugs, then it's really hard to say to other countries who are violating like human rights conventions to criticize them and say, hey, you have put your autograph there, you should stick by the convention. So it's like the best way to do it is to not go against these international rules, but there is I would say they don't have sanctions to go against you, and with everything that's happening, including Biden yesterday, this all makes more room, you know. Also that the UN has rescheduled already.
Also with Malta.
Cannabis. Yeah.
No?
Yeah, but Malta is also because it's very, very limited, you know. And I think that's one of the reasons that it is so limited, that they're also a bit scared, like, okay, how is the European Union going to react to it?
Yeah, but what we saw, like Luxembourg, they also wanted to do it. And in Zurich, there's this project going on. I just read about it this morning, that they also have a delay in there. So all I'm saying, it might take longer than we all think. I really hope not. Fingers crossed. I really hope that the legalization will go on in Germany, and even if it's not the best at the best state at the beginning, it has to start at one point, and we have to begin somewhere, possibly.
Yeah, because to recap that, like you said earlier, but also to remind the listener, how much more time will this German coalition be in power if they do
3 years.
For 3 more years. So yeah, then they have to fix it in 3 years, otherwise it might go.
And 1 year is already gone, huh? But they say they want to have something at the end of this year, at least, the bill and everything, a proposal.
In December. Yeah,
exactly. So let's wait for that. But anyways, I love the Dutch. I always wanted to come here. I always wanted.
You'll stay here anyway, no matter how the laws change.
Exactly, and it's not that far. So my business is still over there in Germany. It's a German company. But I don't see the problem with that.
Because where were you based in Germany before?
In Düsseldorf. It's near Cologne. So it's not far. It's like 200 kilometers from Amsterdam. But still, I wanted some other air.
How is your Dutch?
Ik kan het een beetje verstaan en spreken. Ja, maar ik heb... here we go in German. No, I also studied a year in Antwerp. So
exactly.
I will start now to really go into it. But for me, the hard thing is that it's so close to German. Because then I try to switch to Dutch, and in my head I'm like, oh my gosh, you're just like speaking German with an accent. That's it.
Yeah, it is.
You just do like a reverse Rudi Carell, like the Dutch guy who moved to Germany and became a big quizmaster, presenter, celebrity, and that's all he did. He just spoke really Dutch, but with a very German accent. And then because he wasn't too fast speaking, it's so funny. Just this on Twitter, somebody had this photo of Rudi Carell and said, "Who knows who this man is?" And then I immediately got this memory when I was about 15 years old. I was hitchhiking to go to Amsterdam with no money, and this big, huge sort of a car stopped, like a Jeep type big thing, and in there it was Rudi Carell.
No way.
Yeah, and he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I go to Amsterdam." And he said, "That's great. I'm also going to Amsterdam, to the Amstel Hotel." Yeah. So we had this ride, and during the ride he smoked like 15 filter cigarettes, really, one after the other, and talking and smoking and talking. And indeed, he stopped at the Amstel Hotel, which is like the best and most expensive hotel in Amsterdam. And then he said, "Would you like an autographed photo of me?" And it's not something that I would have asked for even at 15, but I thought, hell, why not, you know? People will otherwise not believe that I got a ride from Rudi Carell. So he said, yes, please. So he made it out and he gave me the photo and off he went. So that's my Rudi Carell story.
That's the photo what's above your bed.
Yeah, it's like I resized it 10 times
exactly,
bigger.
Yeah,
it's on my plafond.
Well, it's nice to hear you're staying close to us. So for definitely, if we have some more German news, we'll
get you back on the show.
And also, you maybe have a nice voice to record some
new jingles,
some jingles, some segment jingles.
I'm always open. And what we have to do, we have to play. So we have to meet again in this constellation, and then we play around Green Deal.
That's also. I'm curious. I'm really curious about the game. We go to the old segment, and we have also a very nice jingle for it. We open the box.
Yeah, in every episode we go back in the history of cannabis culture to share something with you. Let's see, where's my glasses? It's on top of my head. I knew we had a lot to talk about today, so much news and good stories from Nyke, of course, that I picked something short, sweet and very old. It's a tale of Nasreddin Hodja, and that's a fictional character in the folklore of the Muslim world and hero of a lot of humorous and satirical short stories. And I took it from the classic The Book of Grass, an anthology of Indian hemp that was edited by George Andrews and Simon Vinkenoog, who is often named on the show for good reason. This is a great book that was first published in 1967. And here's the story of the Hodja. The Hodja was very curious to know how he would react to hashish. One day, he plucked up the courage and bought himself a handful from the apothecary, smoked it, and then went to a Turkish bath. Some time passed, but he felt no change in himself. They must have given me the wrong thing, he kept on saying. I must go and find out. I'm not going to be cheated like this. So he rushed out naked. Hodja, what is the matter? People asked him. Where are you going like this, with nothing on? Don't ask me, he said. I thought smoking hashish would do something to me, but as you can see, I'm still what I was. I'm going to get the real stuff from the apothecaries. I have a feeling he's cheated me.
Nice.
The Hodja.
All right. Then we go to the listeners' response. And if we have a guest, I always ask the listeners and the followers of our Instagram account if they have a nice question for you. We had a really nice question from Ariel.Quixote.
Quixote, maybe? Like Don.
Quixote. Excuse me to pronounce your name wrong. But I think it's a she. She asks, do you have a spiritual connection with the intake of cannabis? And I thought, that's interesting because you were also really spiritual in your videos sometimes. So,
I think it's all connected. I think we're connected with the universe. I think there's energies that's floating and that we don't see like as a human. And it's also a beautiful thing about drugs. They open up your mind for many, many things that you don't see with your bare eyes. If I ask the dog, she sees different things than we do. But I think that we're all energetically connected. We are just on this rock cruising through the universe. Who are we? To
and spinning too.
Exactly. The moon is a part of the earth. So, of course, I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. That's what I'm always saying. I believe in the connection of everything. And we'd opened me up for thinking like this or looking differently at the world. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's. I think also for for both of us as well, a little bit. Not for me, but for that much. But
I think it's comparable to recreational, between quotation marks, and medical. Whereas, like you said before, a lot of people say, "Yeah, I take it for fun," but actually they take a medicine, and they don't really know it.
Yeah, nowadays when everybody is like, it's such a fast world and so much pressure and everything that's going on with Corona, with Ukraine, everything. I think it's a different world we live now in. And this pressure, many times, I think people work with it through cannabis. And so they use it recreationally because they are chilled and at the end of the day or during the day or whatever. But basically it's their medicine and they just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's... very nice question, Ariel. Are we're gonna make sure it's gonna be a nice package.
Price package.
A price package.
Yeah, for sure.
Excuse me for my English.
A plant-related price package.
And if you have any good questions, a good recommendation, or any story you like to share with us, we can put it on the High Tea Podcast show.
Suggestions for guests.
Whatever you like. Please send us an email to info@highteapodcast.nl and the podcast with a T. Or send me a DM on Instagram or whatever you like. We get to each other for sure. So I say it's time for some home-growing tips in the High Tea Podcast kweekhoekje.
Let's go.
Yes, let's go.
Het High Tea Podcast Kweekhoekje. Yeah, it's harvest time for a lot of outdoor growers all around the world. I saw a nice photo via Twitter of some hanging branches, and somebody had put there every spare bedroom in Canada right now, which I thought was quite funny. Myself, I've managed to keep my own plants almost mold and bud rot free. I cannot say 100% because I had to pinch out or cut out with some scissors some rotted tops. But like today, there's still a lot of sunshine here in Eindhoven. So they are still out there on my balcony. Recently, Rens brought one of the friends of the show, La Chanvrière from France. If you haven't heard it yet, check out episode 45, where we went over to his place and interviewed, had Chanvrière on the show as a guest. He had some excellent tips that I'll gladly share in this High Tea Podcast Kweekhoekje. He said, don't you use a leaf blower, Derek. You can get a small one for €30, and it's great. You use it the moment that you start having the risk of mold. You just use it every morning when you get up to blow it on your plants so that no water remains inside your flowers causing the mold. And then he said that in Humboldt country in California, there are people, it's basically their job in the month of September and October to every day get up early in the morning, have the leaf blower and blow like 3,000 plants out there in those humbled fields. So that was a good tip. You can also use like a hairdryer for it, but then you need one without the heat because you don't want,
Vaporize all
to vaporize all of this shit before you even harvest. But like Jean-Vrière said, for 30 euros you can get a cheap one, and you only need a cheap one because you're not using it to blow any leaves off, but just to keep your bud mold free and bud rot free. And then the other great tip that he gave that I never heard of before, which is very easy and very cheap. If you do remove some buds that have been affected by mold or bud rot, then use some sodium bicarbonate or potassium bicarbonate, and this is usually known as baking soda, and you can get it in any supermarket. It's too clean. It's a sort of a salt. And then you take a Q-tip and make it a bit wet, and you dump it in the baking soda, and you put it on the affected, or the thing where you cut it away. So you should cut always where
on the wound.
On the wound. You shouldn't cut it where there's still mold, of course. You should go under it so that it's not affected, but then to really stop it inside, because it usually starts from inside, put that bicarbonate, that baking soda on there. And I can attest to it because I did it the same day that he gave the advice, and it stopped the process. And that's why my plants are still outside.
That's, I think, a life-saving tip for a lot of home growers.
It's a very. It worked very well. You should be careful, of course. You don't want that stuff all over your flowers, because if they are sticky already, it sticks also to them. So be careful about it. That's why you use the Q-tip, so that you really, like in a laboratory, can be very.
And put it
careful
on the branches and just not on the flowers, of course. I think that's also...
it's usually on the stem. It's like on the tuck.
on the branch.
On the branch.
On the branch. So I wish every home grower at this moment a very good harvest. I hope they will all succeed, and I hope to see many at the Homegrown Cup Winter Edition, the outdoor section.
Yep.
So
one thing I might have to add before listeners think, how is this possible? It's October and he still has the plants out there. I do take them inside every night, and if it's raining outside, I also put them inside, and I check them at least 2 times a day, and preferably 3 times a day, to be there immediately when the first signs of mold are there. So
Derek is also sleeping on the couch since 3 weeks because his plants are standing there.
He's a caring daddy.
Yeah, he has no place anymore for himself, but he
you want
sacrifices.
your plants to finish, You don't want to take them off too early so that they haven't reached their full potential.
I've seen growers who had love for the plants, but I never seen so many love what Derek always gives to his plants. So
that's also what Jean-Vrière says. It's everything that you put in, that's what you get out of it. And rightfully, he says it's not only with growing cannabis, it's with growing anything.
It's with everything in life.
Whether it's a tomato or
Everything.
a potato, what you put in is what you get out. And if you don't put the time into it, you get shitty stuff. So that might be the mother of all growing advices.
what you put in comes out.
Exactly.
And for everyone, please send us your pictures or your stories about your home growing. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Dr. Derek will always find a way to help you out, for sure.
The outdoor bush doctor.
Yes, we're going to the end.
Time flew.
Time flew, but we had a really great time. Thank you, Nyke, for coming all over from Germany. Maybe now from the north of the Netherlands. But thank you so much. It was really amazing.
It's probably a longer way now than from Düsseldorf.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, Düsseldorf is
Probably,
really
yes.
close to where we are now. And of course, also a big thank you to the sponsor of this episode of the High Tea Podcast, our friends at Seed Stockers. Affordable cannabis seeds for home growers, available at seedstockers.com. Thank everybody for listening. Of course, please like and subscribe to the show and recommend us to your friends so we can keep growing.
Thank you very much, and see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Houdoe.